Welcome back, WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore Positive. I'm trying to get the sweatshirt up into the screen here. My cat loves to get after my tassels, so I'm going to stick those in there. There it is, Baltimore Positive. We are joined today in the aftermath of the Purple Afterglow. There will be no Super Bowl championship here. There'll be no parade, Bill Cole. I'm just happy democracy's back, so I'm going to applaud that, watch some football this weekend, and then, let's drill down and getting rid of this plague, right? Let's drill down and getting some people some vaccines.
So you just packed a lot into that,
Mm-hmm.
So obviously it's...
No, I gave you know what it did was a Monty Hall. That was door number one.
It's good to be with you. You always get me going here. So I'm glad. I'm not glad. I'm not as disappointed as I would have otherwise been on a regular year that we lost to the Bills. And I can't even really point to anything necessarily, right, that I want to be overly critical about.
Well, you were having fun, but you weren't having that much fun, right? It was fun watching the games on TV,
sure.
But it was very, very, disconcerting to me to watch second-round playoff games that I'm not at. I'm not really having the kind of fun that we all sort of built the Ravens to have, and realizing that if they won a couple more games, there would be a Super Bowl, and we would have, really have not had the kind of fun we want to have. So, like I said, let Cleveland win.
Right. I told you, I think last week, you don't want to win this one, right? You only get to win once every 10 years. You don't want to win the one you can't go to where nobody can have fun with it. So you don't want to win this one. So
I like that. That's good loser talk. I like that.
I also think, maybe it's just as simple as it wasn't our year and maybe it's Buffalo's year. And, sometimes weird stuff happens and guys just, blow up.
That's the avenue I've gone down. My avenue this week was I didn't really believe they were the best team.
No.
So the fact that they didn't win, now it putting the egg back together, right, and saying, all right, how are they going to win? That's much more compelling. Like I talked to Jeff Moeller, my real estate buddy from Moeller and Gary, Don's son. We had a wonderful – we sit together in Section 513, so we talk football all the time. So we just brought it to the radio, brought a little real estate in as well. But the notion of how are they going to win like this? Do you really believe Lamar can drop back? Do you really believe they can come back from 13 points against the good team, not against the Dallas Cowboys or against the Philadelphia Eagles? I'm talking about the three best teams in any given year, whether it's, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Kansas City, Buffalo, whoever it'll be. It might be the Raiders next year, right? It might be the Chargers with this kid, right? It might be Deshaun Watson somewhere else. I don't know. But winning those games, winning this time of the year in these weather conditions, in this way, with this offense, I think that's the conversation we're all going to be having.
I think that my takeaway is I'm not overly concerned about the system and the player, right? We did win. And I think we won
a lot
with guys that weren't supposed to be there, right? So you lose your left tackle, you're not supposed to win the Super Bowl, right? You lose integral pieces. You went from your star running back to a rookie who deserved to play, and the other guy deserved to not play, it looks like. And now he's, wherever. But it's a transition year. What I take away is I think you can win the Super Bowl with this system and these players. Well, we just need to upgrade the players, right? That's fine. And here's the kind of cruddy part. You don't have to pay Lamar now. He still hasn't.
See, I knew it was going to come down to, CEO Bill Cole was going to put the hat on and say, how are they going to manage this? Because we saw how Kansas City, busted out champagne and gave Mahomes $500 million.
And if they don't win this year, Kansas City will have to break it apart. That's going to catch up to them. When you have to pay the quarterback, you get one, maybe two shots, and then you got to bust it apart. And we've watched that. So now I think you might set Lamar up to be here and be able to put some good pieces around him. And maybe you are in the hunt every year for 5 or 6 or 7 years. And
that's the goal. That's all
you
can
right?
be. I mean, I'm not even playing the role of keep Lamar, sign Lamar, love Lamar, or junk Lamar and start over. I mean, they're not going to do that. The question
No,
is, how
nobody
do
should.
they manage this? Who do they bring in? And then in the end, Bill, really, will it work? Will he throw the football better than he has thrown the football in the past? Will he play better in bigger games than he has? Will the players around him play well around? I mean, will they have this good of a defense? What, I mean, once they start giving money away, they paid Humphrey,
Right,
paid Stanley, right?
right,
I mean, you know,
right,
Andrews is going to get paid. I mean, we go down the
right.
line. Orlando Brown's not a left tackle, but he thinks he is, right?
And he's going
Somebody
to get
else is going to
paid.
think he
Yeah,
is, right?
right, sure.
So there's all of that going on, and I'm wondering where they pick up from here and what the next few steps are, because that is the interesting part of this, because they're not getting rid of Lamar. But I would say this, and I threw this out just to be not incendiary, but just sort of like, if Lamar were a free agent, who would give him $250 million and build a whole spaceship around him? My guess is not a lot of teams. My guess is they love him. They don't like defending him. But if they had to adopt him in and completely refigure everything that the Ravens have already done, and the
Right,
Ravens are already down that pathway, and they've had, to your point, great success. Now, how are they going to win these couple of games?
right. No, I agree. I think it would be tough to get more than two or three suitors. Somebody who's in a position to rebuild anyway. Maybe they would chase him, but I agree with that point. Here's a funny one. So I'm on a call yesterday with a couple of Pittsburgh guys, and they brought up, and I haven't fact checked this, so maybe you'll remember, or maybe we'll just check it out.
I've had a lot of problems with fact checking people from Pittsburgh. So
Right. They said that they picked Claypool right before we took J.K. Dobbins, and they were all upset because they think they really needed a running back. And I'm sitting here thinking, are you kidding me? I'm pretty sure we would trade Dobbins for Claypool in a minute right now. Can you even
yes,
imagine? Right. Can you
but
even
but
imagine?
again,
We don't have a Claypool.
listen, here's part of the problem, and we're going to be talking about this for 8 months, right? You can covet whatever wide receiver you want, right? Whether it's Antonio Brown still playing this weekend, right, with Tom Brady,
Yeah,
right? You can
sure.
covet any of those guys you want. You could play well, we would have gotten Stephon Diggs and given Lamar that kind of weapon. Yeah, you know what? If we would have done, we would have run the ball more, right? Because that's what they want to do. And I think therein lies my ultimate rub, to say you can't be everything to everybody. And this wide receiver thing, the reason they signed Willie Snead is because he's a nasty crackdown blocker. Steve
I love
Smith would be
Willie.
great in this, right?
Dude, I love Willie. Me and my daughters, I mean, we scream Willie like he's one of our just little secret favorites. You know what I mean? Like nobody loves that guy, and you just got to love that guy because he's a grinder. All I'm saying is, if you put Anquan Bolden on this team, Hollywood Brown is a better player, right? Like you just need a big dude who's
You
going to
have to
catch it,
want to throw the ball to Anquan Bolden then. You have to
but
want
you
to
can't.
target him 10
I
times a
know.
game, and then you need to want to target Hollywood 5 more times a game than you are. And that means you now want to pass the ball 36
Uh,
times a game instead of 26 times a game, right? So
because I have to pay that guy. That's why I need to use him. I mean, all I'm looking for is you can't
have
throw to
you met
Andrew.
Rod Tidwell? Did you see
You
the movie?
can't you
Did you see
can't
the movie?
throw to Mark
I've met
Andrews
these wide
every
receivers.
time it
I know
matters.
them, Bill. Yes.
I get it. I
Yeah.
get it. But that's all I'm saying is like Andrews is your go-to, and you got to have another go-to on
This isn't
so
going to be a place a go-to wide receiver wants to go to. I guess that's my point, because they don't want to throw the football here like they do everywhere else.
so
And I
find an
think that
old guy who wants a ring, find an old guy who wants a ring.
find well, there you go. Find an old guy who wants a ring. Good advice. Bill Cole is here. He is Cole Roofing. I'm drinking my Rofo
Probably
Coda
don't
blend
call him
right
an
out of
old
the.
guy, right? Probably don't call him an old guy, but he'll know he's an old guy.
Well, I'm an old guy. I'm icing my hip here, so I am officially an old guy.
So the second door you offered me,
The
right?
second door was insurrection,
I'm happy democracy
inauguration.
is back. I believe you said I'm happy democracy is back. That was, I think, how you phrased that.
I'm happy that a sane individual who knows where Afghanistan is on a map is running the country. I mean, dude, we don't have enough time today for me to go through literal quotations, tweets, the lack of intelligence that the man displayed openly for the whole world to see, ignorance, anger, vindictiveness,
So I get all that.
shallowness. Just
The list
flat
is
out
extremely
ignorance
long.
would be the word. Ignorance
Right.
would be the word.
The list is extremely long. I can appreciate that.
And the fact that that's now gone, and there's a credible, thinking, sentient, emotional, been through a lot guy there, and a former prosecutor by his side as a vice president. And hopefully, where this really trickles down is the appointees of, we're not having Ben Carson and the DeVos lady run an education when she's never been an educator. So qualified people. I'd like to think that when Cole Roofing and Gordian Energy come out and put up solar, get on my roof, you have qualified people. I want to see qualified people. That's for me. That's the bar for me to say qualified people. And I think we would have had that if John Kasich would have been, elected. So,
Right.
this isn't a Democrat Republican thing. This is simply about morality and competency.
Right. I wanna continue to sort of try and not make this a Democrat or Republican thing. My biggest concern today is that while you sit homebound because there's a pandemic, right? I'm looking at the way we're handling the inauguration, and I can't be more disappointed for our democracy
Oh,
than
I
I
agree
am
with
right
that.
now. I mean, I think it's extremely frightening that our position today is literally the electronic signs on 95, avoid DC, roads closed, congestion. Like, we're bringing a new president, the leader of the free world is getting inaugurated today. And our position is stay away because we can't keep you safe. Like, that's bad, man. That's sad. That is like so disturbing on so many levels. Like, I don't even need to
The
go down the
lobbies that have brought guns and militia forth into people's homes to have the Mandalay Bay situation has brought this. When everybody's got access to semi-automatic rifles and a wedge and a leader and 4chan and
so how
Parlor.
so coming out of 9/11, like, how have they kept us safe that whole time?
I'm
Why has
blown
there
away
not
by
been
all of this
right?
fermenting online, literally in front of my eyes. I mean, I have seen people in my world openly share their weaponry, talk about their militia weaponry, talk about their Parlor accounts. Like, I've watched all this happen, and I'm thinking, where was the federal government before January 6th? And I think we are good. This administration and the people whose interns were under their desk on January 6th. These maniacs in Colorado and Georgia, notwithstanding, that at some point the sanity is that can never ever ever happen again. And I'm completely with you,
Uh,
Bill. I'm blown away and disappointed by the fact that we can't have a normal inauguration in this country. But part of that is the guy that woke up in the White House the morning of the inauguration created a sedition led militia inviting Proud Boys, stand by, stand back. All of that like played out before our very eyes. So I will sleep better when Joe Biden's inducted. I will. I
I,
will sleep better
and
knowing
I
that
and
guy's no
I
longer making decisions
right. I
and
totally
stealing from
understand
us,
that.
which he did.
I totally understand that and respect that. I my my frustration is the fallback position of locking things down. And if it's going to be a free country, right? Like, we're always going to have these super super proclaimed patriotic rifle-toting dudes running around saying the government, I'm not paying my taxes. I mean, you're always going to have these people. What I can't understand is why, one, we can't manage that, right? Like, we can't manage domestic terrorism, but we can manage external international terrorism. Like, I don't get that. I guess those people don't have
Well,
rights,
domestic
and that's is
terrorism
that what
used to
we
be
do?
Tim McVeigh running into a building, or the maniac down in South Carolina, and all of that's terrible.
Right.
The Pittsburghs, all of those things are horrible, right? Talk about Virginia, all of it, right? But
Sure.
those were one maniac on the internet doing one maniac thing, not let's get a militia together and go into Congress and kill the vice president and torture the Speaker of the House.
You want
And
right,
literally openly talking about that in
right.
text messages, and then enacting that in large groups, and then having video of it happening in real time and saying Ted Cruz sent us and Donald Trump
Yeah.
sent us, and then 2 weeks later trying to inaugurate a new president. I don't know what their options were for on Wednesday, right? I mean, I'm in full agreement with you. They put flags out. It's lovely. It's cold out. Look, Mueller and I were going to go down, right? Like, I
Right.
mean,
It's a load of crap, man. It's a load of crap that there are flags representing our voters. You know what I mean? Like, that's just so if we aren't
symbolic.
better, if we aren't better than that, so here's another one. I'm reading
But what is your
about
other option? Like, you're the
hold
manager on
on.
this.
Yeah, hold on. Let me give you a little more
As long as they
background.
get through the inauguration and don't have a bomb go off, the country wins.
Yeah, I'm not going to make you repeat that, but holy cow, where have we gotten to that? As long as today
That's
goes
the
off
bar.
without a bomb, it's a win.
Did you
Like, that
see
is
2 weeks ago?
so pathetic.
Right.
Uh,
Well,
I, I I think there's something to this. You can challenge it. I'm reading and reading a lot about Lincoln, Teddy Roosevelt, Franklin Roosevelt, Lyndon Johnson. That's a book called Leadership in Turbulent Times. Uh,
bye.
well,
I will Google it.
just
Go ahead.
right,
You
and
gave me the
then
title. I mean, it's even.
right at the same time, I'm listening to
Oh, it's
I don't
Doris Kearns, good one. Yeah. Oh, fair
yeah.
enough. Okay. I mean, yeah.
Uh, at the same time,
I
I'm
went to sleep
reading.
to the sound of her voice last night, by the way. So,
I don't remember the name of this one, but the other one is
is it the
Teddy
John
Rose.
Meacham book?
Nah, it's Teddy Roosevelt and J.P. Morgan, right? And that early 1900s battle between massive corporations and the federal government. And
The Hour of
what?
Fate and Unlikely Trust.
Yeah, that
And
sounds like
Unlikely
it.
Trust. There you go.
Yeah, that sounds
Okay.
like it.
Fair enough.
So when Teddy Roosevelt was running for his actual first presidency, right? Because he became president because McKinley got assassinated. So when he was running the first time, he took a train for 9 weeks. And it wasn't considered campaigning because it wasn't, I guess, appropriate for the sitting president to campaign on his behalf at the time. They more just sent surrogates. But so this was early. But he went to every state west of the Mississippi, right? Like, he just took a train and ran all over the place. I would offer that part of the problem we have in our country right now is that our presidential campaigns only focus on the swing states. And that's how they behave all the time, from winning an election until they have to go get reelected.
You're right. It's that is the strategy over half of our life, at least since Reagan, for sure.
When was the last time a president visited Nebraska or Kansas or Oklahoma or
you know what?
Massachusetts, for
by
that
the
matter?
way, I think you're being unfair in that, because I bet Obama went to a bunch of those places. I bet Bush. I mean, the last 4 years hasn't been normal. I mean, it was pointed out that that Trump and Melania were never, ever, ever spotted anywhere in Washington, D.C. They never went to a restaurant. They never did anything. I think you would be shocked. I mean, how many times George Bush flew into a blue state? How many times George Bush was in California or in Washington at whatever point doing something in the same way that Donald Trump was running around down at Fort McHenry. I mean, he was. I mean, he was here. He was down in East Baltimore doing something down at the Marriott one day, down at the Four Seasons. So he campaigned here. We're not a swing state. He wasn't going to win Maryland. He had breakfast with what's her name over in Dundalk. So I mean, like
I can appreciate opportunistic local helicopter jaunts.
I was with Barack Obama in the Towson Center with his brother-in-law dribbling for Oregon State against Towson State. So they go places. I mean, wait, are you talking about campaigning during the campaign, or are you talking about visiting?
Yeah, I want to know whether our presidents go back, whatever. You start with Obama.
Dude, it's funny you'd say this because Hillary didn't campaign enough in Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania. If she had, we might the last 4 years of history her emails would have been in trouble. But
this is not a comment about effective campaigning. Like I don't think I'm trying to win an argument about how best to win the presidency.
Are you saying Democrats don't try to go to the middle of red land and win hearts and vice versa? Because, Ted Cruz held a summit down in my lobby, we voted 92% against Trump in this city. I mean, everywhere I breathe, literally, Trump got, 9% of the vote here, 8.5% of the vote. So, like, I don't know how you to your point, you want to reach across? Is that sort of your notion that if Barack Obama would have gone to Nebraska, maybe they'd feel better about him?
I just believe that part of the divide is that a group of people feel like they're either not being heard or that the world's against them or, whatever it is that has incited such vile, discontent that we can't have people at our election, at our
well, this is what Joe Biden has now, right? And this is going to be, for better or worse, his job, right? It's his job to bring people together. It was Trump's job to do that too, but it was never viewed as such, and one of the reasons that I'm so happy to see him go, like in my soul of souls, beyond the morality and all of that, is just he wasn't there for me. You know what I mean? He made that very clear. He made it very clear that he wasn't there for any blue state when it came time to send vaccine. Like all of those kinds of us versus them thing. That's not the way Joe Biden is going to that's not going to be it's never been his message. You know what I mean? He's had Republicans in Delaware trying to get elected for years, right? So I think the message is going to be different on a daily basis. And I think much like compounded interest, right? I think a week, a month, a year from now, all of this where, Trump's going to go to prison as he should, and with the impeachment and wherever that goes, that's certainly not going to be a great start, to your point, any more than an empty flag field, across the ellipse in the mall on Wednesday. But I do think there's going to be a message coming from the top of the top that says what you're looking for, which is I'll go to Nebraska. I'll come to Texas. I'll go to the red part of Florida and talk to y'all because I'm not here to screw you. I'm here to govern.
So I would love the travel records, right? Like to your point, I don't really know the answer. You're challenging that, saying, nah, I think they get around more than you think, and fair enough. Maybe they do. I would assume that the only time they ever go to Louisiana is when there's a hurricane. Otherwise, they never go there, right? There's enough stuff going on that it probably.
It's just not true. They have to fundraise in all these. I mean, I
get it. I get it.
Nancy Pelosi comes into Baltimore twice a year and fundraises, sometimes loudly, sometimes quietly, like literally, like that happens all the time. Anyone who thinks they're running for president right this minute is going to come to Maryland. All at any point, whether the Klobuchars, all those people are going to come here looking for money. They do that. I mean, I just think there's more grassroots than you believe.
That's fine. Fair enough looking for money. I mean, I think what I'm looking for is a leader to your point. I'm leading all of America. And
No, I think you
I,
got that this week. You didn't have that last week.
well, I agree from the perspective of he believed he was leading for all Americans, right? He believed that he knew best, and he has 50 years. Like, go back and watch the documentaries about the AFL, NFL, and all that stuff with him, and all
Of getting away with it.
no of being a vindictive, vengeful, grudge holding, like, miserable person. Like that.
We
That
call
is,
that an asshole in America.
yeah.
That's
Well,
generally
yeah,
what we call it,
it's
but
funny. That's
that's
what
what
I
I
was
call
calling
it.
it this morning. But um, and the minute he walks into the presidency, and they're attacking him, that was it, right? Like, he was always going to be vengeful and spiteful to them. So we never had a chance of any kind of unity there. Never. That's not who he is. It never was, right?
Well, that's what concerned me gravely, because in that position, the most valuable thing you can have is to have everybody pulling the rope the same direction. And I've been to a lot of cultures where, for better or worse, the Chinas and the Cubas and the literal, authoritarian states, but also places like Germany where people follow the rules because they think it's good sense. Where a kid reached out with bone marrow to save my wife's life, literally, because it's in his soul to do the right thing. That is valued. That's why Angela Merkel runs Germany, and go Google her credentials versus the credentials of Donald Trump, whose credentials were literally failing up. Bill Cole was here, Cole Roofing. We were talking about the new democracy and the new America and the sadness of inaugurations and all that. Bill, you just staying on the topic, but moving on to the next thing, which would just be, I've got a dozen people in my life with COVID right now, and none of them in a tragedy level at this moment, but I've had plenty of tragedy. Until we get this thing sorted out, the one real reason that I'm in love with Joe Biden running the country is I feel like there's a level of competency. I have a better chance of getting a vaccine shot and getting my business back, your business back, everybody's normalcy back, a Pearl Jam concert back, standing at Merriweather having a beer. I stand a better chance to do that today with Joe Biden as the president than I did yesterday with Donald Trump. And I know that I have no doubt about that. So for me, the other side of this vaccine and wherever we're going as a culture, that is going to involve red and blue and black and white and east and west and north and south, all coming together and getting this thing contained now, soon, quickly, because until that happens, we're not going to breathe again in this country the right way.
So I'm gonna challenge some of that, but, like, why do you? So I firmly believe that any sitting president that has a pandemic should never be reelected, right? Like it's too easy for us all to say all the things he should have did differently or could have did differently, and
Well,
we would just
lying about
destroy
it probably wasn't the
it.
answer, right?
There's 100 things. I don't
Yeah.
care who it is. If your economy crashes,
Acknowledging the science and the
everybody's
existence that this exists, and we need to do something about it other than
even
lie and ignore it.
even if I don't know who to lean on. Bill Clinton, right? Even if Bill Clinton was in
Pick
office,
Nixon. Go ahead. Pick either
okay,
one. Go
Nixon,
ahead.
I don't care who, really. All I'm saying is I believe that the majority of people vote whether life is better today than it used to be, right? When a guy's going
Is
for
your Are
reelection.
you better off than you were 4 years ago?
Exactly. And I think that drives a fair amount of the votes. So if you're in
How
the
much
middle
are
of
gas prices?
if you're in the middle of a pandemic and your restaurant's closed, you can't go to a concert, like, life sucks. Well, clearly somebody's got to take the blame for that. So I don't think a sitting president should ever win. It just seems weird. The other side of that is that when you get to the end of the pandemic, whoever is president saved us all. Like no matter what happens from here, if we get to summer and we can have a semi reasonable, like similar to old day kind of summer.
Joe Biden's going to be a good grandpa.
Joe Biden saved us. Like there is no doubt that that's how it will be perceived. I just
Well, was that like 12 months ago where all the idiots in my world who love Donald Trump were texting me about the $600 check I got or whatever it was, 14, however much money it was. It said Donald Trump on it. It had his autograph on it. He sent it to you. And I'm like,
right.
all right, I'm not believing that any more than Joe Biden saving my life. I
It's the
would
same
believe that
thing.
Joe Biden cares that a shot gets in my arm. I do believe that. I believe Joe Biden goes to bed at night trying to do the right thing. I do. And if you think I'm a fool for believing that, then fair,
No,
good on you. But I think he's spent a lot. I think we're in better shape there than some of the alternatives I've seen around on both sides of the ticket, by the way. So I would agree with
I
that.
do. I mean, I do believe that in their hearts, Joe Biden. I think this is a ridiculous statement because it's not based on any real information. I do believe that Grandpa Joe cares about me more than Donald does. I definitely do believe that,
That
right?
should be an easy premise. That's not an unfair question. That's a baseline. We've all encountered people who emotionally feel like that's a good person, or emotionally feel like, I don't know about that. Wouldn't go into business with him. Wouldn't want him marrying my daughter. Wouldn't him, I don't know.
Sure.
Wouldn't want him closing the door in the bathroom and like looking through my prescriptions. You know what I mean?
But I do believe um that with that comes decision making. And I mean, look, I'm about to open a rabbit hole that we clearly don't have the 3.5 hours to even scratch the surface of. But I'm a big believer in the coming out of World War II. We had the Bretton Woods Accords or whatever, where we brought all the European countries over and we said, look, it's all good. We're not taking any land. We don't want to be an empire. Everybody's fine. Here's the rules we want coming out of this, right? We're the only one left that had a navy and an army, and you know what I mean. Everybody, they were all decimated. We'll protect the seas. Send us all your goods. We'll buy them, but you all got to get in line because we're going to lead against Russia, right? And that's kind of the start of the Cold War. That accord lasted for 70 years, and that's how everyone behaved. And the last president, keep going back to, like, I think they want to say maybe first Bush, maybe Clinton. You know, the world has changed. Russia's not what it was. There's no more Cold
Well, the
War, blah,
world
blah,
became
blah.
dependent on oil, and oil came from one place, and that changed sort of everything in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, but I think that existed.
Well, and goods coming out of China in the last 20 years, 30 years.
Right. The point I think that these people try and make is that, like, that set of rules doesn't fit the global economy today. And
Where the United States and Europe just runs everything.
where the United States is in charge of keeping all water safe for everyone to ship their stuff,
The
and no
Kennedy
one
era.
is required to protect their merchant vessels. No one's required to, you know, it's
Except off the coast of Africa or wherever.
but they don't, nobody does it. They come to us. And that's because none of them built navies, because we told them we had it. And we've been trying for 40 years at least, maybe 30, maybe 20, I don't know, to sort of pull back from that policy and say, nah, look, like, we're kind of good. Like, we're 80% of the world's consumption. We don't need your oil anymore. Like, we're kind of good over here. Like, we want everybody to be happy, and we'd like to buy your BMWs, and like, we like imported cheese and wine, and so you can keep sending your stuff. But, like, I'm not going to send a boat over to keep it safe. You have to do that. That's on your dime now. And that has been the upheaval that's gone on. And Trump continued that, and it didn't start with Trump. It didn't start with Obama. It didn't start with Bush or Clinton. Like it's been building each person
Well,
over
how
the
are we going to
next.
guard the Falkland Islands when we got 25,000 troops in front of our building just trying to swear in our president, right? That's literally where we are, where we came from, Kennedy era, right? Eisenhower, right? 50s, 60s, all of that, to where we are. And this is where we are right now, and this is what we have to manage. But I still think the pandemic, I don't think, I know, the pandemic is the number one pressing issue because I think none of us sat here a year ago and realized even if you went and watched the movie, right? You went watch Contagion, you'd see the death and destruction and doctors and bad decisions and policies and money and like all that, but you wouldn't see the unemployment and the economic depression that it would bring on, and as quickly as it did bring it on, right? Like that was something that I think we've had to live through to sort of manage through to understand. All governments in the world have had to do that too, right? How are we going to take care of our people and feed our people and keep them home and safe?
Yeah, I don't know. I think our biggest risk around the pandemic right now is that people just don't have the stamina. You know what I mean? Like you're
It's hard.
just,
It's hard.
yeah, yeah. And I get it. And I mean, people are getting vaccinated and da 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 da. You know what I mean? And like the school systems and the parents, like they all kind of woke up and we got to get these kids back in school. And it's like, man, where were you 6 months ago? Like the situation isn't better right now. So why all of a sudden now are you standing in front of the school board screaming at them because they're not getting the kids back in when there's more people in the hospital today and more people infected today than there were in September?
Man, I'd love to go back to our conversations from last March when, Trump's holding up the 14-day sign in the beginning, right? Like this was going to be like a 2-week. This was going to
Yeah.
be like a hurricane that came through and busted things up. We'll put it back together in 2 weeks.
Right.
And it hasn't been anything like that. And I don't know that anyone, even when I'm applying for my first PPP and like all of that, people are applying for unemployment and you're hosing down your facility and getting masks for all your employees and trying to figure out all the new rules. Through all of that, I don't think anybody was fully prepared for, hey, this will still be going on next April, right? Like the government the old government didn't do a very good job of informing anybody about anything, honestly. But more than that, just psychologically, no one was prepared for this. And I don't know that a whole lot of business owners, even smart guys like you and people we know, I don't know that anybody that owned a restaurant last March really believed this March it was still going to be a problem or viewed it as such. Because they may have just nuked it and walked away.
I, and I certainly agree with that. We'll, we'll,
I
we'll
still don't know
all,
where the end is.
well,
Like
right,
literally,
right,
right?
right. We'll all know better the next time. Like I think my frustration is around you when you don't know when I don't know what's coming at us. I take a very defensive posture and I begin preparations right for worst case scenario. And if it doesn't happen, like,
I have
hey,
extra rice and
thank God,
toilet
right?
paper here. Right.
Thank God, right? Like, awesome. I'm sorry we all wasted our time
I
sorting
loaded
that
up on
out.
Liberty Pure Water, so like,
Right,
that's
right.
what I did.
So for the schools, right, in June, once we got through the spring and we got to the summer, I I don't understand, and I don't believe that anyone did this right with malicious intent or
No,
neglect
no
or
school system had a
it's
pandemic plan.
I understand. Well, that's absolutely ridiculous, but whatever. I'll take that at its face value. Like where were the leaders, government, schools, parents, PTA, whatever, who began work in June and July to like say, okay, let's just say we have to come back, right? And we know we got to be 6 feet apart. And if we hand sanitize all day long, like I think we'll be okay, right? Like we can manage this, right? Like we can figure this out. It seems really scary. Like think about where we were in June, right? Like that's a pretty scary concept. But here's the protocol. All right. Right away, you realize you don't have enough room, right? Like there's no way
Kids are
you
not
could
going to stay away from each other.
right. And you just don't have enough square footage in your buildings, right? Like you can't put people 6 feet apart.
It's not built for that.
Right. And most of the schools we have are overcrowded, with the exception of the city where there's like a bunch of, empty buildings or 35% populated buildings. At that point, like the state brings their educating leadership together, and they got to start solving for this. And now we're at a point where, and I don't know, the full amount of counties or whatever, but like Carroll County, I understand, is pushing really hard to come back, and Harford County is talking about it, and
I
Baltimore
had
County,
Barry Glassman on this week, by the way. We had Calvin Ball on 2 weeks ago, Johnny O, Stuart Pittman. We are going county by county and having all the county executives on. So we will be talking to them.
yeah, I just like they want us all to be responsible citizens, and like do our part. And the messaging, the communication is so fragmented and confusing that it's like no wonder you can't get everybody to kind of like grow in the same direction. Like to talk about opening schools right now means that you either don't believe the data or you believe that it's not bad for the kids, right? That somehow they either don't get it or they get it and they don't have symptoms, or that somehow you're going to prevent them from taking it home to grandma, or, like, and we can inoculate all our teachers. Oh. So who really wields the power in that discussion? I think it's the teachers, right? Like the teachers were saying, hey, I can't come in here and work unless it's safe. Otherwise, why are we talking about going back to school now? Like there's more people in the hospital now than there were in April.
Well, there's
I
more
don't get.
COVID in the community now as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
I just it like to me this is the worst part of the pandemic right now. Maybe next week is worse. I don't know, but like this is all worse than I think it was.
And we should be home and structured and 11 months into this having solutions. Every
I
kid
don't
should have a
know if we should
tablet,
be home.
Wi-Fi, all literally a
I don't
space
know
to
if
do
we should
this,
be
all that.
home. I don't know if we should be home, right? If we think we can do it safely, right? Because we have enough data now that says we can do this safely and we can do it that safely if we follow these procedures, and I'm cool with all that.
The
But like,
Ravens couldn't do it safely, and they
sure,
and they
but
had and
who's
they spent millions of dollars trying to do it safely.
nobody's trying to stand up in front of all of us and say this is how we do it safely. No one's saying that, because you know how much liability you would have if, I mean, that's the other ridiculous part of it, right? Is like, God forbid something new happens in the world and we all can't really
Well,
try
we
and
have
figure
new
it out
strains
together.
of this virus that are circulating as well. All right, look, I'm going to cut it short here and say that the saddest part of all of this is there's only 3 football games left for us, right? These are the kinds of debates we're going to be having. I'm not getting together one of those delicious breakfast at an accelerant event with you, but we do get together once a week, and we'll continue to try to solve all the world's problems here, as we move forward into this thing. I will say, I'm feeling better about America today. That's all I'm going to say. I'm feeling my patriotism, flags in the ellipse be damned, tens of thousands of them. I am putting my American card on here and trying to forge forward, Bill. That's
Yeah.
all I'm saying.
So, like one comment related to the education conversation is just that I don't want it to be misconstrued again that I don't believe people have been trying to do everything they can. I do believe that, right? I'm asking these questions, and I guess I'm just really
Why is there
wishing.
not a better global solution? Is what you're
I'm
saying?
just wishing for a better day, right? Like I think that's really what I'm saying. I know people have tried to solve for things and are and working to do. I just can't. As adults, we have let our children down. We have failed our children. Like I believe that the adults all need to look in the mirror and say, we have created a significantly terrible place. Is this is what we talked about last week, I think, right? It's like it's supposed to be better than when we got it. And now we have massive political upheaval.
But you
We
know
have
what?
a
It's hard work
pandemic.
making it better. It's hard work making it better than where our parents brought us.
Yeah,
This really should bring all of us together and understand what our grandparents flying off to wars, running
right.
off to Vietnam, Korea, setting up unions, doing new deals, living through Kennedy, living through Watergate, like all of that,
Yeah,
keeping us fed during the Carter administration, like all of that, right? Like it's hard work. This isn't as easy as our parents made it look, right?
right. And I can't join you in the I feel better about America today only because it frightens the hell out of me when we have to restrict access to something as important.
American.
Yeah, something as important as the just this ceremonial process of you know acknowledging our new leader.
Well, the good news is, from the pandemic perspective, is we didn't really want to bring 100,000 people together anyway. So I'll hear that out, and I'm willing to just turn my head, get through it, and let's focus on the cake, not the icing, right? The cake is the pandemic, the economy, putting people to work, jobs, solar, climate change. Like these are let's take care of that, and let's all the ceremonial stuff. Let's have the wedding at the courthouse and have a good
Fine,
marriage.
but the only reason I think the actual reason why I can't join you is, will the 20,000 troops ever leave DC? Will that new fence with barbed wire and all that and the razor wire, will that ever come down from around the Capitol? Right? Will you ever be allowed to go back into the Capitol as a guest, tour group,
See, I would
whatever?
say to you, ask the terrorists and ask the person who would put that together. Ask them what kind of country they're going to live in, and their children.
Well, they
And
don't make any of the decisions. This is not a right or left
the woman that
statement.
flew across the country to run into the Capitol to dive. I mean, it's a cult, dude. At that point,
It's
you're Jim Jones, and all of the. I mean, dude, I've watched the videos the last 2 weeks, right? Like
yeah, I get it.
videos of
It's
these,
not that
the
that
entitlement that they felt walking in. I'm
yeah.
watching that sob sit there in the chair, the Speaker of the House in the chair, and I looked at my wife and I'm like, how in the does that guy not think he's going to prison? Like
Right.
what
Right.
under what
No,
new democracy
this is
are
the
you not going to jail?
let me make it. I'm really trying to pull the right and left out of this because it's irrelevant. After
But 2 weeks
9/11,
after that happens,
hold
you're
on.
wondering why there's barbed wire and when there won't be.
I'm wondering where
Ask
the
Q, he
courage.
knows.
I'm wondering where the courage comes from to unpack the the less freedom, the freedom taking actions that occur after 9/11. You can go read any of the stories you want, right? Like, we're all okay with the fact that NSA is all up in our business all the time now, right? Like, to what degree, who knows? You know what I mean? And I don't do anything wrong, so I don't really care. But like the whole Ed Snowden, all that stuff, right? Like, we know our civil liberties were infringed upon at some level. Might only be a little bit, might be a
Dude, if
lot.
I
I
think
don't
about a
know.
bowl of chili, I get served an ad for one. So
Right,
I
right.
know the issue's gotten weird. There's
And
no doubt
I
about
right.
that.
So all I'm getting at is, it's really, really hard to unpack these things once they do them, right? coming out of a crisis, oh, hey, we need a bigger fence. Shut that thing down. Close those roads. Bring the troops in. And everyone's like, yeah, yeah, protect it.
Well, we haven't
Yeah,
had a
yeah,
plane
yeah.
hijack
Lock
in
it
20
down.
years
Lock
because
it
look at what we
down.
did, right? Literally.
Right. And I just think that decisions made in the immediate aftermath of a crisis are not fully vetted. And it's just human reaction. And that's cool. I get it. It's natural. And then the problem is it takes immense courage later on to stand up and unpack that stuff. And I don't think our politicians, because you got to get reelected, right? So it's really hard to do that. Because if anything bad happens, like use the fence. You take the fence down. It's wrong. It sends the wrong message. We're free. We're safe. It's all good. Take the fence down. And then 100,000 patriots with Trump banners come running, show up 3 days later and do it again. Oh my gosh, somebody's losing their job, and it
Well,
takes
I
a lot
found
of
it
courage.
fascinating that when I was in New Zealand 5 years ago, that if you traveled in New Zealand, you walked into the airport and onto the plane, same way you walk on a bus. There
Right.
was no security at all. Like literally, there's a place to check your bags if they were flying, but like the place you dropped off the bags and you walked to the gate, you literally walked to the gate like you did in 1964.
Wow.
And that was in New Zealand. Inter-country, if you're flying out of the country, there's security. But if you're
Right.
flying from Auckland to, I don't know, pick someplace in the
Whatever.
South Island,
Right. Right.
Queenstown, like you don't have to go through security. So I thought that was a little throwback thing as well. Bill Cole is here. He is Cole Roofing and Gordian Energy. I got the Gordian Energy hat here. You didn't like the way I looked in it last week, so I'm trying to flesh it
I'm
out
not
a little
sure
bit
you put
more.
it. Yeah, I'm not sure you put it on
I
right.
just got to fix it right. Yeah, because my hair, I got a lot of hair going on now. The pandemic has done that to me. Tell everybody what you do with roofs and stuff like that. And by the way, thanks for cleaning my gutters. I appreciate that.
Yeah, all good, man. So we're a commercial roofer, 100 years. Everything from little leaks that are annoying in your office building to schools, hospitals, shopping centers. And then we also like to explore and try and help people understand what solar on that roof looks like, and how that can create a secondary revenue stream. And, you can join the clean energy wave that's coming to the country
Dude,
thanks
only
to
you
Joe
can come on
Biden.
here for an hour and talk about all this heavy stuff about barbed wire and the future of the country, and then just say the word leak. And I start to crack up because I just think of Nacho Mamas and that ad in the corner. You know what I'm talking about, right?
I
Three guys
know,
peeing in the
look,
alley, right?
potty humor never gets old. We laugh at it until we die. So
Well,
I can
I
appreciate
was in
that.
Florida a couple months ago, and the billboards, "Your wife is hot," and I'm like, that billboard will never, for the air conditioning company, of course.
Hmm.
Bill Cole, of course,
I
does
get it.
roofing, and he's with Gordian Energy, and he's trying to fix the world, make it a better place, and so am I. All right, man. Peace out. Keep the faith. Keep your passport, and wash your hands. You have
Appreciate you,
not had
brother.
COVID yet, correct?
No, sir.
Let's keep it that way.
Yeah, man.
He's
Take
Bill
care.
Cole. I am Nestor. You can find me out on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram. You can complain to me and throw me email nasty at WNST.net, or you can just drop a big steamer on my social media like other people do. We are WNST.net, AM 1570. Towson, Baltimore, we never stop talking about democracy, freedom, and sometimes roofs.